Hello, welcome back to the channel. So it is no secret on this channel that I kinda hate MoC. It is, I think, by far the worst endgame mode in the game, and kinda clouds people's judgment on how bad the endgame actually is. Because Pure Fiction and APOC, I think, are mostly fine and enjoyable as they are. Even Anomaly Arboration, which does definitely have problems, I think is still mostly fine. It's just nothing like amazing. But MoC is the one that people focus on the most, probably because it was the first one released and is the closest to base combat that we have. But it is just so outdated. The only things that have actually changed is the bosses and what buffs are. How it plays hasn't changed at all since it came out. The core problems with it are, one, the buffs matter way too much and are often only really good for the on-banner character. Now that's not a new thing, all of these games do that. The problem is how much they matter. They should feel important and worth it to use, because if they didn't, then there wouldn't really be a point of having the buff at all. But right now it's way too far in the other direction, where if you don't have the characters for it, you probably aren't beating it. Like, I think APOC does buffs the best, where there's 3 buffs per side, so there is a variety of teams that can work. Like, obviously not every team needs to be good at one time, that just isn't feasible with how many characters are in the game now. But it should feel like there's more than 1 or 2 good options, you know? Which, to be fair, the bosses also haven't really helped with this, since a lot of the new ones, like Pollux, feel designed to be just countered with one character in mind. But the buffs just make this problem even worse than it already is. 2, this is a problem with all modes, but it is especially bad in MoC. The HP is way too high. Obviously, they shouldn't just have no HP, because then you get the problem with a lot of the bosses in the story where they're just way too easy and don't really feel like actual fights. But right now, it is on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, where it feels like you're just hitting a brick wall until it goes down. Like, just giving enemies more health is just an artificial way to increase the difficulty, since all it does is make the fights more tedious and make the new characters have even more of an advantage, since they have higher multipliers and overall just do way more damage and can attack faster and all that kind of stuff. I do think this is kind of a symptom of the characters getting stronger in general, since if the HP just stayed the same since the game came out, but the damage kept going up, then the content would just be way too easy. But I feel like there needs to be some kind of limit, and I feel like we're already kind of past that where the limit should be, you know? It doesn't help that they keep using the same bosses over and over. I swear half the reason people hate Hule is because he shows up so much. So it feels like you're just doing the same thing over and over again, and specific characters are good against specific bosses, so it just feels like you're just using the same strategy over and over, and there's no variety. And especially with MoC being a little bit more basic than a lot of other modes, it just feels like you're just using the same strategy. It gets boring pretty quick. And to some extent, I do kind of get it, since a lot of older bosses are a bit outdated, like Svarog feeling like he doesn't really do enough, or Cirrus, who is just kind of boring in general. But they could at least update them somewhat instead of just using the same ones over and over. Like, they have done that before with, the Aventurine boss. Since before, I feel like the supports were kind of just guaranteed to get hit, since the dice counted per character. But with the new dice system, since it's overall points, it feels a lot more fair. So just doing that for some of the bosses would help the mode feel a lot less savvy. But even besides the bosses, some of the elite enemies, I think, just suck the fight and can be even worse than some of the bosses. Like, the Stingrays are so annoying, since you take constant damage, and they are also pretty fast, so you're basically forced to run a healer if you can't beat them, and we just got a really good shielder, so that just makes the problem even worse. The T-Rexes as well, since they have so much health, and if you don't have a fast character to deal with them, they can take forever to kill if you can't, just activate their explosion ability. They aren't as bad now, since we have more access to action advance, arguably too much, but they can still be kind of annoying. The Sun dudes as well, since they just do constant AoE damage and can also take away your energy. I feel like just a lot of the newer enemies in general are designed to make you slower at being able to beat them, which just makes playing the content a lot more annoying than it needs. The main problem with MoC as a whole right now is that it's just boring. It is supposed to be more sort of base combat, so I don't think it needs all of the big mechanics that the other modes have, the grit and the more focus on break of APOC and that kind of stuff. But it has been almost the exact same since it came out. It's still just 2 sides, one overall buff, And that is it. I think that if you wanted to make it a bit more interesting, for one, having an option for at least 2 or even 3 overall buffs would make it feel better, and having it be an overall buff instead of 1 for each side, I think would make it at least feel a bit different from the other modes, so it doesn't just feel like they're all the exact same. And if you could pick between 2 different fights on each side, it would help with the feeling of it being samey, but to be honest, I kind of doubt the devs would ever do that. But also, I feel like they just need to make it feel more worth it to actually try to go for 3 stars a lot of the time. Since right now it just doesn't really feel that worth it to go through the effort of 3-starring 4, 12, or even 11 sometimes, just to get a couple more jades. Like, it does give an okay amount now, but a lot of the time you would not care that much if you've already gotten, the characters you want. But I think that if they bumped it up a bit higher, it would encourage people a lot more to play the mode to get the jades, similar to kind of some events a lot of times, since a lot of people will play things even if they don't enjoy it just to get the jade. Overall, MoC just needs some kind of a rework, like what Pure Fiction got. Since before the rework, that mode was kind of boring, but now it feels a lot more enjoyable and just smooth to play in general. Like, stages 11 and 12 were added all the way back in 1.6, and it has gotten nothing since then. It really feels like the devs just don't know what to do with the mode to make it better. Even Anomaly Arboration feels like their second attempt at an MoC-like mode, just with 3 teams instead of 2, at least until, the final fight. But even that mode has its own problems with a lot of bosses feeling like you need certain counters. So to be honest, I don't really expect MoC to get anything in the future, especially with us getting a new endgame mode and currency wars coming out soon. They're probably more focused on that, which I can get to some extent, but they really should do something with it. Like, whether that's even just adding new light cones to the MoC shop, like adding more stages, just literally anything, since it is the one that people focus on the most, and it was the first endgame mode in the game, which at this point it is really kind of starting to show. I think that if they just changed literally anything, whether that be the buffs, the enemies, the different bosses and all that, the format itself, that would help a lot. Because I think a lot of people want to like this mode, because it can work, but it has just been boring for so long that a lot of people just don't really care about it anymore. And even if they did update it, I don't even know if people would even really want that. I feel like some people would just want something new. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.